Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing Cat Cafe Manager on the Nintendo Switch. Now this game is a cozy life sim / time management game that released on April 14th of 2022 and currently sells for $19.99 on the Nintendo Switch eShop. The game is published by Freedom Games and it has an overall download size of 530 megabytes. Now, before we actually dive into the review, I do want to mention that this one will be broken down in a quite different way than my usual reviews because of some of the issues that I encountered during my gameplay. I will basically start with a breakdown of the whole gameplay mechanics and storyline, and then I'll move on to the issues I had with the game. You'll still get everything you need to figure out if this game is for you or not, and we'll still be giving it a score at the end. However, we will be spending a lot of time with the different issues I had, just so that you're aware of those things in case you decide to pick it up. So now with that stuff out of the way, let's jump into the review, and don't forget, if you do appreciate the content, consider hitting that like button. So first of all, Cat Cafe Manager has a totally adorable and approachable storyline. You basically move to a town where your grandma was known for running what they call a cat cafe, and you decide to take up her mantle and build your own. The basic premise of a cat cafe is not only to serve your customers food and drinks, but also take in stray cats and find them permanent homes. Being a lover of cats myself, this attracted me immediately and I was super excited to be getting a review copy of the game. Now the basic gameplay loop here is very straightforward. Clients are going to come in, you're going to take their orders, prepare their food, and then serve them. They're then going to pay you with a currency, and based on the type of customer, they're going to pay you with a different type of currency. And each of these currencies have a different utility throughout the game. For example, the currency in which witches will pay you for will allow you to buy new recipes for the cafe and also buy the components you need to complete your orders. While on the opposite spectrum, punks will pay you in building materials, which will allow you to actually expand your cafe. Now in total, there are 6 different currencies, each with their associated clients and uses. Now the game does allow you to select which clients you want to focus on, meaning that you can basically select each one of the areas you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on growing your menu? Do you want to focus on getting new furniture? Or do you want to focus on expanding your land space? Next, you also have the cats themselves. You can set a lure in front of your cafe and different strays will come and visit you. If you go to that lure when the cats are there, you can pet the cats, and upon return visits, there's a friendship meter that will grow with each individual cat, and when it reaches the maximum, you have the option to adopt him. Once the cat is adopted, he will basically roam around your cafe. This leads us to the bulletin board. The bulletin board has multiple functions, one of which is people looking for cats. When you can match up one of the strays that you've adopted with a person searching for a cat with the proper characteristics, well, basically, you can find them a permanent home where the cat will then leave your cafe. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the bulletin board also has other functions, one of which is hiring employees. Because yes, as you progress through the story, you'll be able to hire employees to help you along with your duties in the cafe. Now behind all this, we also have a separate mechanic which is called the Cat Shrine. The Cat Shrine is where you will access the availability of new upgrades to your cafe, such as the ability to have more seats, therefore attract more clients at once, or even access a wider array of recipes to purchase. Now the final mechanic present in the game, and the one that it will mainly advance the storyline, about once a day you'll have the option to go out to the telephone booth in front of your cafe and call what are one of your regulars. That will lead to an interaction with one of those regulars and help grow their friendship meter. Now in the spirit of not spoiling anything, I'm just going to mention that to reach the end game and basically what would be the end of the main storyline, you have to get a certain number of these regulars to a certain level of friendship. Now all that combined is pretty much the breakdown of everything you'll be going through in this game. I've got to say, when I started out with the game, I was super hopeful, and the overall gameplay loop, although I found a little bit shallow, was nonetheless rewarding. But now we're going to move on to the issues that I've had with the game. And you'll understand why after over 7 hours of gameplay, I still haven't reached the end of Cat Cafe. I probably won't be reaching the end, and I've actually moved on. Now before we move on to the big stuff, I do want to start with one minor annoyance that was present from the very get-go of playing the game. and that is the different hitboxes throughout the game. To be able to interact with a customer, so take an order, serve food, or even prepare food, you have to be positioned close to the item you want to interact with. And unfortunately, the exact spot you need to be in to interact with these different items seems to be very wonky. Sometimes you'll be right next to a customer wanting to interact with them, and the halo that appears normally around the customer when that is available just won't appear. So you'll end up dancing around the different customers trying to get that hitbox to appear. Now, although this isn't game breaking and it can be worked around, it did get very annoying once the cafe got larger and you had to interact with a high amount of customers in a short period of time. Now, that on its own, as I said a little bit earlier, wasn't game breaking. Then, however, I came across a major bug. About 2 or 3 hours into my first playthrough, unfortunately, I tried to hire my first employee. Every time I tried to hire that employee, unfortunately, the game completely crashed. If I reloaded the game and tried to rehire the employee, even a different one, unfortunately, yet again, the game crashed. So I tried to push on my own without any employees to help me in the cafe, but after a few extra days, I pretty much got to the reasoning that trying to reach the end game without any help throughout the cafe would be near impossible, or at least extremely annoying. So after multiple other attempts to hire employees, as I mentioned, changing which employee I would hire, waiting a couple of days, and then trying again, I finally decided to start over a new game. Now, the reason I decided to start over a new game is I did chat with other people that had access to the game, and they were mentioning that they weren't experiencing the same bug, yet they were experiencing other ones. However, theirs weren't game breaking, so I decided to give it another shot. Now, during my second playthrough, I actually managed to hire employees, so everything was looking up, and I was hoping this time to finish the game. Now, one thing that I had not mentioned earlier is you can also level up your character, which basically helps you complete recipes quicker, take orders quicker, and so forth. And during my second playthrough, with my character about level 25, I tried to continue leveling his abilities, and guess what? The game crashed. Now, at this point, I could still push on and finish the game, leveling up my different employees and depending on them to complete most of the high-end tasks. However, at the same time, I felt like at this point I'd been playing for 7 to 9 hours. I'd give this game a fair shake, but unfortunately, these bugs were just making it not fun to play. Now, by the way, I'm focusing a lot on the game-breaking bugs, but there were a lot of small visual items and menu items that were also problematic, and if you ever want a huge list of those, Alex over at Switch Corner also did an amazing review of this game, and he actually goes into details to a lot of those visual bugs. He also did manage to reach the end game, and there's another issue if you decide to want to keep playing after the last cutscene. But after, as I said earlier, 7 to 9 hours of gameplay, I do feel that I've played enough of the game to be able to give it a score, and at the same time warn you against these possibly game-ending bugs. Now, there is one final issue that I do want to bring up about the game, and that is the fact that although this game is called Cat Cafe, the actual interaction with the cats are possibly totally useless. What I mean by that is that you can actually play through the full game and reach the end game without interacting with the cats in any way. And for a game that is called Cat Cafe Manager, I can understand that they maybe wanted to give the option for someone to forego that interaction, but it just feels wrong. And in my opinion, they should have heavily leaned more into that interaction and made it actually required to reach the end game. So now we move on to the official scoring on the game. And I'm going to take everything into context with the current bugs because that is the current situation of the game. And if you want a look at my full review scale, it's down below in the description of the video. I'm going to be giving Cat Cafe in its current state a 3.5, putting it at the high end of a hard-to-play game. Now, it might sound like I'm being harsh with this game, but I really can't give it a higher score than that. In its current state, you can start a game, possibly reach the end game, and other people might get game-ending bugs where their whole experience will be ruined. Not only that, but this is a game that's being sold for $20. And even if everything gets patched out, it would still max out, in my opinion, at around a 7. I mean, even if everything was functioning perfectly, the game, nonetheless, I did find it to be a little bit shallow and repetitive. And as I pointed to earlier, the fact that the interactions with the cats are sort of optional in a game called Cat Cafe Manager was a little bit disappointing for me. And ultimately, in its current state, I would personally stay away from the game. But as I said earlier, even if everything gets patched up at $20, there are better options out there for time management games or even life sim games. So now I would like to hear from all of you. Based on what you've seen in today's review, have you played the game and experienced similar or different bugs? And are you maybe still going to be giving this game a shot? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget, on the way out, that if you did appreciate this content, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel if you aren't already, and hitting the notification bell so you know when all my future videos come out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.